Welcome, everybody, to today's DreamWakers Daily Conversation. I am so excited today to be joined by Dr. Shyma El-Sayed, who is a clinical psychologist, an artist, and founder of her own practice, Alkeme Psychology. This week is all about resilience, what it means, personal stories we have, and how we build resilience, especially in difficult times like the ones that we're living in right now. So it's really, really exciting to be able to talk to Dr. Shyma El-Sayed all about all of this. So thank you so much for joining us and answering all of our questions for you today.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
So let's just start off with your own path. Like, when did you learn kind of about psychology and what inspired you to pursue that as a career?
Okay. Um, it's actually a really interesting story because I remember as a child, I was always asked, like everyone is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then at some point in high school, I realized I was growing up. So I had to look into that a little bit more. And it was during English class that I was reading J.D. Salinger's 9 stories, and in particular, the short story called Banana Fish. And it's about a man with PTSD. And I just remember loving the whole book, that particular story, and loving the nuances of it. And I was like, I really enjoy this. I feel alive when I'm reading this. What can I do in life that involves this skill set? Essentially, kind of just looking at nuances, creating patterns, analyzing. And I did a lot of research and eventually came to psychology. And I just kind of kept learning more and loving what I learned and continuing to follow that path.
That's awesome. What a great book. So, can you walk me through a little bit more about your personal and professional journey? Like, how did you get to where you are today and own your own practice and everything?
Yeah. So interestingly, after high school, I thought I was going to be a psychiatrist. I was pre-med at first. Then I realized that psychiatrists spend on average 15 minutes with their patients. And I didn't quite like that. So I was like, I just really want to be with people and listen to their stories, and be a part of their healing journey. And I then found psychology after that. So I talked to a lot of people, did a lot of research, shared my ideas, my interest, and every conversation just kind of helped me learn more about the field. I talked to actual therapists, art therapists, psychologists, all doing different things, and interviewed them and just got a little bit more of an understanding as I was continuing to learn about it in college and then eventually grad school.
Wow, that's really, really great. Has anything kind of surprised you about the career so far? Is it everything that you hoped it would be?
Um, it's actually a lot more than I thought it would be. Psychology, because I was originally interested in it because of the science behind it, the brain, the nuances, analyzing, like I said earlier. But I realized that the real magic of it is being with someone, like being in the room with them, and you don't really get that sense until you're actually doing it. It's not really something you can learn in a textbook. And there's something really magical and powerful about being with someone as they're processing really important history, emotions, experiences, and just noticing that shift as they make epiphanies and insights into their life. And it's just a really special profession. And I don't think I realized that when I went into it. And I just don't think you can replicate that in a lot of other professions or even interpersonal interactions. So, yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable than I thought it would be.
That's amazing. And that's really kind of our goal here at DreamWakers is to hopefully inspire students to really find something they're passionate about and something that really makes them just feel happy and joyful about what it is that they do.
Absolutely support that.
So, in TV shows and movies and pop culture, therapy is kind of seen as like laying on a couch and just talking your heart out, and someone like making notes in a clipboard and saying, how does that make you feel? So can you kind of like demystify the process for us? Is it the same as that? Is it a little bit different?
That's such a funny question. It's really interesting because typically when I meet someone for the first time, and let's say they haven't been to therapy before, naturally there's a little bit of nervousness because I'm a stranger at that point. And that's all understandable. And as we kind of go through the first session together and I get to know them a little bit more, they get to know me a little bit more, I always ask at the end of the session, like, how was that for you? How are you doing? And almost always people say, it's not like it is in TV. So I just find that really funny. It really isn't. Therapy is a lot more warm, I would say. It's usually like a really stoic, serious person, and they're kind of quiet, and it's just not as warm and friendly as therapy can be. Because you're building a relationship, and you have to think about that. It's almost like a very objective friend. And the other part of therapy is that it's a lot more interactive than it's displayed on TV. Oftentimes with my clients, we are engaged with each other. Not only are we talking, sometimes we're crying together, we're laughing together. I walk my clients through body awareness, deep breathing, guided meditations. Sometimes we do art activities together or movement. It really depends on kind of what's needed in the moment, but it's very much a warmer environment and a more interactive environment than it's shown on TV. It's less scary, I'll say that for sure.
That's great. Thanks for giving that insight into it, because I feel like you're right. A lot of people have never done it before and just don't know what to expect. But you mentioned a little bit about art. So you're an artist and you found a way to kind of combine that creativity in your therapeutic approach with some of your clients. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about how you combine art and why.
I absolutely love art. Personally, it's meant a lot to me. So it's been part of my journey of processing, understanding myself, relaxation, and I wanted to offer that to others. And through that process of like learning more about psychology and interacting with different people, I realized that everyone has their own art form, their own kind of creative thing that makes them feel alive. So it may not, for me, I love painting and drawing and any kind of visual art form. But for others, it can be singing or dancing, movement, cooking, knitting. There's so many avenues for creativity. So I like to get to know what people's creative medium is and kind of how to integrate that into therapy. One way I do that is by inviting them to share with me what is it that makes them feel the happiest and most alive. So in session, bringing in poetry, showing me like dances and plays and things like that. So it encourages that type of creativity. Another way I use art in session is I love drawing mandalas. So oftentimes I'll print a mandala and just have it in my room for folks to color while we're talking or to take home with them. Other things that I've done with art is use art, like a very specific type of art and project for that person to kind of commemorate like a breakthrough or a really important insight, so a person can just remember that this is a really good piece of the work that we did together. And lastly, sometimes art is used as like a goodbye and a token for our relationship, the work that we've done and the work that person has done. And it's kind of something to take with them as we end our work together. So it's used all across the stages in a lot of different forms.
I love that. And I know especially with all of us at home and not able to get out and do the things we used to, now's a really good time to start practicing some art. Pick up some pencils or some paintbrushes.
Absolutely.
Well, my next question is about the theme of the week, which is resilience. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about what resilience means to you and why resilience is important.
Okay. I love the topic of resilience, especially because I am a trauma-focused psychologist, so that's a big part of understanding trauma is understanding how do we get through really difficult experiences. And for me, it's important. Resilience is understanding the struggle you're going through and using that struggle and the understanding of it, not the judgment of it, but just like the objective awareness of noticing what you've been through, what was it like, to transform your experience. And in many ways, that is kind of the, the crux of alchemy psychology. It's using the dark experiences we may have and transforming that through insight, awareness, having a non-judgmental approach, and connecting to something greater from that.
Wow. I love that. I didn't even make the connection. Alchemy psychology
Yeah.
is like the transformation. That's really beautiful.
Cool.
So, do you have any advice for our viewers, be they students or teachers, parents, or just community members at large, about how we can be resilient, particularly during challenging times like these?
They are definitely challenging times. And I think it's helpful to remember that everyone is experiencing this time differently. So to give yourself space for that, and to understand that you're not alone in this, that there are people out there that you can connect to, even if not in person, but just to kind of have someone to know that you are not alone in what you're experiencing right now, and also that there are people out there that care for you and wants to know how you're doing and to kind of check in with you. So that's important. I think it's also helpful to remember that it will end. Every difficult experience, emotion, um, or struggle we go through has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And although we don't really know how this will play out, it's just helpful to remember that it will end. It can't last forever. And I think there's some solace in knowing that. Because I think sometimes when we're in the midst of a really difficult, dark experience, it can feel like it lasts forever and there's no way out. And that can create more anxiety. But just having that awareness that this will end can help. Um, and the last piece that I think may be important for this time is exercising self-compassion and gratitude. This is a very important thing to remember because this is also transformation and this is resilience, because it's recognizing that although circumstances are not great right now, there are things that are going well for you. And even if it's small things like I can call my friend, or I have shelter, or I'm healthy, it depends kind of what you're experiencing. But to understand that it's okay to experience things however you're experiencing it, and also to have gratitude for what is going well and what you do have.
Those are all very important reminders, and I love that you just repeated that it's going to end. This isn't forever, and that we'll all have friends or family members, teachers, parents, mentors that really do care about us and want to know how we're doing. So you're right, you're absolutely right. So our next question is a bit bigger, a bit deeper. So mental health, kind of at large, is a difficult topic sometimes to broach. There's communities that maybe don't have the resources and access to mental health care, or perhaps there's a stigma around it. And I'm wondering if you could talk to us about if you've experienced this at all and how we can kind of broach this very important but sometimes difficult topic with communities that haven't been able to embrace mental health yet.
I think this is a really big topic, and it's a very important thing to look at. And I think mental health is aware of the stigma that exists and has been working towards closing that gap. A lot of it comes from a kind of tainted history of, you know, not treating people well and exploiting marginalized populations. So I think that there is a reality to the stigma. There's also parts of the stigma that are not true, and kind of like you were asking earlier about media and how it's portrayed in media, there's a lot of things about therapy that are sensationalized or dramatized to make it look good and interesting in therapy in TV, but in real life it can be more nuanced and introspective, and there's a lot more depth and warmth, like I said. So I think that it's a combination of things that kind of contribute to the stigma. And one way to combat that is understanding that it exists and acknowledging that it's there, and then working towards alleviating that. And I think one of the important things that are happening right now is that we're seeing a lot of therapists, psychologists, other mental health workers who represent a lot of marginalized communities and identities and populations. And I myself identify as a woman of color, a multi-ethnic person, and I grew up poor. It's like I didn't really see people like me when I was growing up in positions of power or service, and I think that's changing a lot right now for our generation. And I think it's important for that to continue to change and to continue to diversify who we see as our leading healers and leaders and people who represent mental health.
Completely. And that really carries on that theme of alchemy, of transition and change and turning into something new. So I think that we have a bright future ahead of us. So my next question is a little bit more of a fun one. So you have a pet snake, which you mentioned you sometimes integrate into therapy, and I just want to see the snake and have you tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Yes, I have her with me right now. Give me a second. Let me grab her. She's kind of resting right now, so.
Okay.
I'm going to gently pick her up. So I actually have two snakes, but I'm going to show you one right now because the other one is in shed. This is not Sperry Brulee.
Wow.
Yeah. She's a ball python morph. There she is. Good morning. Yes, so she is my little scale baby. Sometimes I integrate them into therapy. I think it's just kind of fun to get to know a part of me, and I think clients enjoy that. And also, I use snakes metaphorically. So as I mentioned, my other snake is going through shed, and what that means is that he's kind of resting so he can let go of an old layer of skin in order to have the new layer of skin underneath it grow, and it helps him kind of get bigger and expand. And I love that metaphor of like shedding old layers. And again, kind of going back to transformation and resilience, it's important to honor our past and what we've been through and what we've experienced, and also to release anything that doesn't serve you anymore. So kind of like an old layer of skin, just kind of let it go in order to grow and move forward.
That's really amazing. And what a beautiful snake. I'm so jealous.
Great. She's very gentle. She's still kind of acclimating and wondering why all of this is happening.
Well, that's a beautiful snake. We have just one more question for you, although I wish we had more time. It's just if there were one or two themes or maybe pieces of advice that you really hope the viewers today take with them from the conversation, what would those be?
I think a big part of resilience, getting through difficult times, and even thinking about careers and what you want to do when you grow up is getting to know yourself and loving that person. And that truly is a lifelong journey. Um, and that doesn't always mean the things that you're the best at or the greatest at. It's also like, what are your growth edges? What are things you need to learn or improve on? And I think if we continue to adopt that mentality and that mindset for ourselves, we'll always be moving towards our authentic selves, right? We're always going to be moving towards what our true selves, our inner gold, because we're not functioning off of what's popular or what's liked or what someone else expects of us, or even what we expect of ourselves and what we should do. It's more of like understanding who you truly are at your core and moving towards that constantly. I think that helps you just really enjoy life and enjoy yourself and the people around you and everything you build around that, because it's coming from a place of authenticity. And you're a great person to know, so why not fall in love with you?
That's amazing. That's a wonderful, wonderful piece of advice that I hope everyone can take with them and hopefully hold on to for their life. Dr.
Oh, I did
El-Sayed.
one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I was really excited to be part of this conversation, and I know I can't get to see the students today because of sheltering in place. So what I did was I created something for everyone out there, our DreamWakers. I created a mandala and a journal entry page,
Oh my gosh.
specifically for our DreamWakers. And it's just something you can kind of engage with and color and reflect on during your own time. And yeah, I'll be sending that out to all of you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for that. I'm excited to color mine in.
I know, it's so relaxing,
It
so
really
I'm excited.
is. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for the time and for all of the amazing advice and insights that you had to share. I just thought this was a really, really great conversation, and it really tied in with that theme of resilience. So thank you for all of those stories that you had to share with us. For everyone watching, we do these at 1 p.m. Eastern on our Facebook page. If you miss our conversations, you can always see them on Facebook or on YouTube. We post them after they air. And we hope to see you guys again soon. But for now, that's all we have. So we'll see everyone next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.